And a good spiritual morning to you once again. Christ is risen, Christos Anesti. I'm Father Kuzmas coming to you from my prayer corner at home to share a cup of coffee and visit a little bit and talk about some different things. And so I thought, it's still Bright Week, we would be talking about some lighter subjects. And I know that a lot of people are looking online and they're watching and they're streaming and watching a lot of different things. One of the main things that we like to watch is movies, of course, and we can't go out to the theaters, and so we're staying home and we're looking at a lot of different movies, and we're wondering, well, what are good movies to watch? And one of the ways we pick our movies is by, well, which ones have won an award? And of course, the most coveted award is the Academy Award for Best Picture. And so I thought I would take a video or two, depends on how fast I can get this done, to look at the nominees for Best Picture. So first off, spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about some of these movies that were nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture for 2020. There were 9 of them. Now, full disclosure, I didn't see all 9 of them. Some of them I chose not to see, and some of them I just didn't get around to seeing. The couple that I chose not to see, unfortunately, in terms of reviewing, were some of the most, well-awarded movies. Parasite, which was the winner for Best Picture, I did not see. I read some reviews, I saw what it was about, and I kind of chose not to see that movie for the content. And also Joker. Of course, Joaquin Phoenix won Best Actor for that movie. Again, after seeing the reviews and what it was about, I chose not to expose myself to that kind of rated R content. And I just didn't get around to seeing Jojo Rabbit, which was a satire about, the Nazi movement. So the first thing I would say is, so many of the 9 movies were rated R. A few of them rated PG or PG-13, but the vast majority are R-rated movies. And so I did see 6 of them. And again, probably mostly at the influence of my kids, because I have 3 kids now, over 18 or over. And so as we saw some of those pictures, I can talk about some of those, again, from the perspective of an Orthodox priest and just a moviegoer. So the first thing I would say is, if you're one of those people like me that likes a good ending to a movie, which I do, I think part of a good storytelling is a good resolution to the story, a good ending to the story. If you're one of those people that likes good endings, and you're probably going to be disappointed in some of these movies, because a lot of them seem to be about the journey and not about the end. The end, I think the sort of running theme amongst at least the ones that I saw was sort of anticlimactic. That was the sort of theme of the year, a good story with not a good ending. And so to group a few of them together, again, I can't do justice to all 6 of them individually. I'd have to make 6 videos. So to, let's say, do 2 or 3 together in this segment, and then maybe do a part 2 or a second segment tomorrow. And again, we're releasing this one on Bright Thursday, rather. We just finished celebrating services for St. George, so Chronia Pola, Happy Names Day if you're celebrating all of our Georges and Georgias, Chronia Pola. But today on Bright Thursday, I'll do maybe the first 3, and then maybe do another 3 tomorrow on Bright Friday, as we're celebrating the life-giving fountain, the Zolokupigi. So the first few to put together, I would say 1917, I would put together with The Irishman, and maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So let's look at those 3 today, just for 2 or 3 minutes, again, broad strokes. 1917, of course, it's a war movie. It's set in World War I. And again, about the journey, about following the journey of 2 soldiers. Really, it ends up being 1 soldier, as he's trying to relay important information to stop a slaughter and an attack that's going to end up being a trap for so many of the Allied forces. And as I said, it's sort of about the journey, and you're following, what he's going through in just one day. And, again, the ending, a huge letdown, because he gets there just a little bit late. He doesn't stop the attack. All these poor soldiers are killed and injured. And then the final ending of the movie is him speaking to another soldier, and then him going and sitting down under a tree and just looking at a battlefield. Sort of like, why did I watch this movie? it was disturbing and sort of like, again, no resolution to anything. It was just about the journey, about watching the soldier, all the horrifying things he has to go through, and then fail. Okay, if that's your idea of entertainment, then you should watch that. Similarly, The Irishman. They made jokes about it being a long movie, and it was. Sometimes a good movie can be 3 hours or push 3 hours, and if it's a good movie, 3 hours will fly by. These 3 hours did not fly by. It felt like a 3-hour movie. It was a long movie. And again, an amazing cast, had all these amazing actors in it. Obviously, you had Pacino in it, you had De Niro in it. But again, it was about the journey. It was a slow, grinding drama. You have to be one of those people that loves the performances, loves the acting. The writing was not very strong, and the ending, again, very anticlimactic as an ending. It's a gangster movie, and it's focusing on a little bit about the gangsters and about the unions, about Jimmy Hoffa and some of his exploits. So again, about the journey, not necessarily as a good movie or a good story with a good resolution. Very slow paced. You have to be in the mood for a very long, slow drama. And then lastly, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a typical psychotic Quentin Tarantino film. If you like Tarantino, you'll like the movie. It's one of his normal movies. Again, sort of slow. It felt long. A lot about acting, a lot about situations, not a lot going on. But the difference about a Tarantino movie is usually then there's this sort of crazy ending. And that's kind of what ended up happening here. It was building and building and building, and you're hoping for this resolution. You kind of know where it's headed because it's based on real events and you know what's going to happen. But ultimately, the ending was so over-the-top violent that it was disturbing. And the violence in a Tarantino movie is almost comedic because it's so overdone. But in this respect, it was, again, so overdone and so graphic and so brutal that it was disturbing. And those were the last images that you were left with. So as we're thinking about these three movies together, I would say, again, they're long, they're slow, they're grinding, and unfortunately the ends are disappointing. And from the point of view of an Orthodox Christian, there's few things that I can find in them that are redeemable qualities. You really have to look for them to try to find them in these movies. And unfortunately, you're left with a lot of very sort of disturbing images and very morally disturbing ideas in the movie. And so that's something that I would say to be careful of as you're looking about and thinking about, these particular films. And so those are the first three that we're going to look at. Again, like I said, I can't go too much in depth, but in the next segment, we'll look at Little Women, we'll look at Marriage Story, and we'll look at Ford versus Ferrari, the other three pictures that I did see, hopefully a little bit better, and analyze those a little bit from a perspective, again, of a moviegoer and an Orthodox Christian. Once again, may our risen Lord and Savior bless us and keep us this day and every day. Christ is risen.